Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. And Eddie, we generated some real late season momentum last Saturday night with that big win over 13th ranked Iowa State. And really it was good for the youngsters because they put in a tough year, as have the coaches, a tough year filled with adversity, but they were excited after that game.
Well, that was an outstanding performance by our ball club the last 10 minutes. You know, we trailed the Cyclones most of the way, and then in the last 10 minutes, our defense really picked up the intensity, and we played like some of the great teams we've had here at the defensive end. I thought we were just super. And the offense, sometimes when you get the defense going, it gets generated. And I think the biggest thing about that ball game, Keontae Roberts, Maurice Robinson, Maurice wasn't even suited up. Keontae had fouled out. Marlon Dorsey was only senior on the floor. And I think those underclassmen realize how important senior night is. We've never lost a senior night game since I came back to Oklahoma State. And those youngsters pulled together. And two of the players, I thought Brett Robish and Marlon carried a heavy load. But boy, right at the end, we had two frosts step up and really play well. Joe Atkins and Desmond Mason hit some big free throws, made some big plays. And I think the crowd helped us a great deal. You know, when Gallagher-Iba gets to rock, and there's no better place in college basketball than our home crowd, and they helped us win that ball game. But it was a big game, beating a top-ranked ball club, gave us some momentum getting ready to go in the Big 12 tournament. So it was a very, very pleasant surprise to a season that has been full of a lot of disappointments with all the players that we've lost.
Well, if you weren't in Gallagher-Iba Arena, you missed a thriller, but you're in luck. We're going to show you that game on this edition of the Eddie Sutton Show. That comes up in a moment. Those guys were excited, no question. Welcome back to the show. Eddie, was senior night against Iowa State. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but always a special game when you say goodbye to the seniors.
It certainly is, and no better way than what we do here. There's Keontae's mother and his little brother. Look at that smiling Keontae. We missed Marlon, but three seniors that have given a lot to us. Maurice Robinson, Marlon Dorsey, and Keontae Roberts. Great shot of our student body. Well, that shot wasn't too good. That has to be a low light right there.
Well, that was, but you see, you have to give some to get some. And we'll see Mason hit a few of those shots as we go along. But it was an uphill battle the entire first half.
Iowa State is very, very good, very well coached, and their team reminds me so much of the ball club that we had 2 years ago that went to the Final Four. Got a good center, got a great guard in Willoughby, got a very fine point guard in Holloway. And they've got Pratt, one of your favorite players, that's just a blue-collar type player, and Bankhead and Edwards, good bench. This ball club, in my opinion, they can get a little momentum going in the Big 12 tourney. They get into the big dance, they got a chance to go a long way.
They've got to have Cato, though, in my opinion, to be effective.
Cato's the best defensive center in the league. He wasn't in this game, and certainly it had a bearing on the ball game, but we didn't have all of our troops either.
Yeah, so, Tim was never going to use an injury as an excuse in a game against us.
But Cato is a great shot blocker. You intimidate, and when I say they're like our ball club, he's not the offensive force Big Country was, but he's certainly a better defensive player.
Let me ask you, this seemed to be, and hopefully a preview of things to come. Atkins and Mason, the freshmen, stepped up down the stretch. It was certainly a big game for Brett Robish, but the more I looked at these highlights, the more impressed I was with the job that Dorsey did.
Marlon Dorsey did an outstanding job. RW came in and did a good job defensively on Willoughby for a while, but Marlon carried us there for a while. Then Robish stepped up, and Brett was the Big 12 Player of the Week. He had a great game up in Nebraska, and then came back here and was our leading scorer in this ball game with 16 points, had 5 rebounds and 6 assists, no turnovers.
Boy, this was a tough first set. Watch this effort by Roberts to tip it in. Working hard.
Great tip in.
Boy, it gets rough underneath against Iowa State.
We've had great games with Iowa State because our philosophies are so much the same in that both of us believe in tough man defense, although I think they play a few more trick defenses than we do, but they know that you got to stop your opponent. They take care of the basketball. Their shot selection is good. The players play hard, and you'll never see an Iowa State team getting beat by very many points because they're so sound in all areas of the game. There's Desmond Mason, hitting a big tray.
Boy, he stepped up in the
Great
second
athlete,
half.
and he's becoming a much better basketball player. There's RW, but missing, but Brett Roby's tipped it back in.
The crowd never gave up on this game, and that's certainly one of the keys when you're playing at home.
There's Willoughby throwing up a real soft shot. He made the first team all-conference this week. I think the coaches, both coaches and sports writers, both voted him first team all-conference, and he certainly deserves that. There's Desmond hitting another jumper. You can see the confidence just right there in his face. And I think that he and Atkins, that's probably the thing that they've lacked a little bit. But they had good practices going into this game, and after this game, when we returned to the practice court in preparation for the tourney, I felt like they had great practices. So I hope that what we saw in this game with Iowa State will continue up in Kansas City.
Brett, much more active, much more assertive in this game than he's been, although he was at Nebraska as well.
He's getting better and better, and I talked to his dad earlier this week, and of course his father's one of the great players ever to play at Kansas, and he was excited because this game was nationally televised. I went recruiting over the weekend after this game over in Kentucky, and I had so many people come up and tell me they saw this game, and you know, when, like I said earlier, when the fans are really active in Gallagher-Iba, there's no better place than that for a college atmosphere.
You saw another great bucket there by Dorsey, who just refused to let this one go away.
There's Keontae kicking the ball off to Joe Atkins, and we're running what we call secondary break, trying to get the ball inside. Look at Keontae. Nice penetrate, pitch the ball, draw the defender over to you, and then kick it off, and Brett Roby's completed the play.
You know, talking to Brett for a pregame show over the first game of the Big 12 tournament, you know, Brett was mentioning that you see there's the fifth foul on Keontae Roberts, and that did not make you feel good. As
we were pressing, and we almost had him in a 10-second backcourt violation, and Keontae was a little slow and rotating up, and he commits his foul. And I think a lot of people thought, uh-oh, this is it. It's over. But this is where our guys really stepped up and displayed great courage, great intensity. That's Joe Atkins. Look at this.
Great drive there.
Very soft shot.
Getting back to Brett quickly again, he said one of the things he had to get used to was the day-to-day intensity, the day-to-day, I guess, the things that you require out of a team on a day-to-day basis. He had to get used to that, and there's a great effort there.
I don't know what they did at where he came from, the University of Illinois, but I always thought they probably worked pretty hard, but I think that's true. I think, you know, we treat all of our players like they were own children. I mean, and that doesn't mean we don't get on them and scold them, because we do. But I think they know that we care for them far beyond the basketball court. And I think that's what he's talking about, because I've been on him pretty good at times in the last month, because I keep telling him, I said, you're better than what you're playing, and your dad will tell you the same thing.
Look at Joe stepping up and draining 2 big free throws, and he makes a big-time play here.
Great defensive play. Went on the floor. Look at that. And very alertly, we got about 2 or 3 guys trying to call timeout.
You'll see it again, up close and personal.
Teams win basketball games on plays like this. When that ball's on the floor and a guy will give up his body and go after it like Joe did, that's a big, big play in allowing your team to win. And you can see, look at Marlon Dorsey now. Is he excited?
Well, I think so.
And that's the way basketball is supposed to be played. I think sometimes this year we haven't had the emotion that we've seen in all the outstanding teams we've had here. And that's another thing we've been on our team. I said, you guys, you got to learn basketball. It's a fun game. It's a game you play with enthusiasm. And I thought it was certainly evident when we were playing well that our team was really fired up. There's Joe hitting 2 more free throws. Look at Alonzo Mays.
He's getting excited.
All conference tight end football, and he's really helped us a lot. Look at him. He and Keontae are giving Joe the bear hug. I'm afraid those 2 guys bear hugging, he might get hurt.
Well, they certainly wanted to let those freshmen know that they stepped up in a tight situation, and there's still ball games to play before this year comes to an end, but certainly a good preview. Maybe that springboard they needed into next year.
Well, I think they needed that. I think they gained a lot of confidence. I think that will give them something, regardless of what we do the rest of the year, to work on in the spring and in the summer in preparation for next year. And we've got a good nucleus returning, and we feel like we're going to have a great recruiting class. So I'm going to be optimistic again next year. Well,
certainly an exciting way to close out the regular season. You're going to hear from those seniors we talked about when we return to the Eddie Sutton Show. There you saw the little graphic about the camps, and we'll continue to talk about that as time permits. Senior night, we told you all about this, an emotional night each and every year. Now let's bring those seniors out one final time.
I want to finish out the season going strong, playing strong, but fortunately now I had to break my hand, so it's kind of tough finishing out the last game of the season sitting on the bench. If I would have came here as a freshman, I would have been playing behind people like Byron Houston and a few other great guys that were playing here. And I would have learned a lot from those guys. And playing under Coach Sutton, his system and his style and his knowledge of the game, I think I would have learned the game a lot faster and been at a high level right now. 3 years I was here went by real fast. I think back now and I just wish I could get one of them years back, but they're gone. I just got to move on. I just wanted to make the best of my opportunity. How many minutes I get, how many starts I get. I just want to go out each and every night to give it my all and help this team win. What I remember most about OSU was the fan support and the help of Coach Sutton helping me each and every day on that court. And the togetherness of the basketball team that we had with all the adversity we had to go through. We had to go through a lot of ups and downs, but mostly the fan and just learning the basketball game with Coach Sutton. About people standing by, you know, you automatically think of people like your immediate family, your mom and dad and things like that. But really the coaching staff here, all the fans, you know, and just the people here at the Oklahoma State family, they really stood by you. And that's something unheard of, you know, especially in college. Players are in and out here so fast, you know, from one year to the next, it could be a totally different team. And when you can get in a place like Stillwater and have a family such as this, that they stay with you, you know, support you through everything, your highs and your lows, and that's something to cherish, and that's something that I always remember here at Oklahoma State. You know, last night I sat in my room and I thought about it, and you know, I looked back on all the things that I've experienced, and some that I really can be proud of. You know, I've enjoyed my time here, had many great experiences with the Oklahoma State group, and I'm just really excited to have spent my time here.
Great piece. You know, Marlon's mama couldn't be here, but she got to watch it on television. But Keontae's mother and his little brother and Maurice's mom and dad and his little son were all here. And it's always a very touching moment, because I think those guys all of a sudden they realize, hey, this is the last time I'll ever be introduced here in this great arena. And
you know, you talk to them and each and every one, each and every year will say, I didn't think it was going to go that fast. The Notebook, Off the Court, the first Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. That's all coming up. Still a lot to cover, and we're back after this short timeout. You know, we've always talked about recruiting as being the lifeblood of any program. Well, we caught up with assistant coaches Sean Sutton and Paul Graham earlier this week, and we talked about the game within the game.
I hope people and our fans really understand how many hours that Sean and I and our coaching staff, Coach Dickey, we put into recruiting these prospective student athletes, and that is it starts way before the signing day. It goes all summer. We crisscross the country going to various AAU tournaments from Las Vegas to Winston-Salem to Los Angeles to Dallas to Houston, all across the country to find the best prospective players that we can. It takes a lot of phone calls, a lot of letter writing. You know, you have to nurture the mother, the father, the grandmother, the high school coach, the AAU coach, and then you hope in the long run that our program is good enough to sell to them. There's a lot that goes into it other than going out, watching a young man play and asking him, would you like to come to Oklahoma State and play basketball?
Have the restrictions made this process even more difficult?
I think one good rule they say, Pastor, you only call one time a week. And I think that's healthier for the coaches that you're not having to call a kid every night, and I think it's healthy for the prospect because his phone's not ringing every night with the same school. So the restrictions, I think, have been good in some areas, and some other areas I think could be corrected.
It must be nerve-wracking to go head-to-head with every major college basketball program in the country for one individual.
You know, Stillwater's kind of off the beaten path. I mean, you have to want to come to Oklahoma State University to play to really want to come here. And so being that we're recruiting the same players that Michigan wants, Kansas wants, if we're going to compete and be one of the top 20 programs in the country and strive to win a national title, it helps to go out and get the best players.
Great education, fine community, winning tradition, all part of the package that you offer and try to sell these individuals?
I think so. I think, like Paul said, we've been very successful the last 5 years in a lot of areas. And one of the things that we try to do is identify kids that will be successful in our basketball program. Not everybody's going to be successful at Oklahoma State. We look at character. We look at the type of family they come from, not only the type of player, but the type of student. And so there's a lot of things figured in, and we try to identify the people that we think will come in and represent Oklahoma State in a first-class manner, like the guys in the previous seasons here have done.
Important to recruit the state of Oklahoma.
It's very important to get the people that's right up under you. This is their school. It belongs to the people in the state of Oklahoma. We want the best players every year out of Oklahoma.
Much like drawing up the X's and O's before a game, making the right calls on the bench, this is highly competitive business. If you can't compete, you probably don't need to be recruiting.
Well, you're exactly right, and I think most people that do it, Tom, take it personal. At least I know Sean and I do. If we lose a prospective student athlete to another school, you're defeated because we put so much into it. I mean, the letter writing, the traveling, driving up and down 2-lane highways late at night, following a young man around, and then you want to make sure that you get him. And the other thing that happens is, you know, as an adult, that this is the best place for a young man to go to school based on style of play, based on how we're going to present our program to him, and then a lot of athletes, they choose school for the wrong reason. So it is highly competitive, and this is what allows you to win as players.
As you try to plug the holes in each and every year with individuals, the individual who may be right for this school, School A, may not necessarily be right for School B, and that's where the evaluation comes in.
I think you get an understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of each player, and if he can fit into your system and your style. That's where I think style of play, a need for a certain position. I think a lot varies, and me and Paul and Coach Dickey and my dad, we get on the blackboard and we identify our personnel and see where are we weak and where are we strong at, and then in the next recruiting class try to plug in the holes where we're weak.
Recruiting is an endless process, and we had a great recruiting class last year, and Sean and Paul just do an excellent job. We've got to have another good recruiting class this season as well.
All right, let's hit the notebook for this week. Fan support this season has been great.
It always is. We've got the greatest fans in the world, and I think anyone that saw the game with Iowa State, or if they were there, they would agree. They helped us win the ball game.
Our schedule has been ranked in the top 5 as far as being tough all year long. Similar situation next year?
We didn't have very many cupcakes this year, and I don't think we'll have very many next year. We like a challenging schedule.
All right, the transition from Big 8 to Big 12, as far as the coaches are concerned, smooth this year?
I think so. I think we have one of the elite conferences in college basketball. I think one thing, some of the coaches didn't like playing the same opponent back-to-back like we did with Texas A&M, something that the Big 12 has nothing to do with, but the Rules Committee meets once every year. A lot of complaints on the player falling out of bounds.
That's my favorite rule.
And calling timeout. Yeah. I think that they'll take a long look at that.
Well, again, that's something you guys could be able to address during the off season. Now, due to production schedules, we had to tape this show prior to our departure in Kansas City, but we talked about it last week quickly. Postseason tournaments bring a lot of excitement to the season.
Most exciting time of the year when you get to the Final Four. It culminates there, but it starts out this Sunday when they throw the bids out for the NCAA 64 teams, and then right after that, the NIT get their bids, and it's an exciting 3 weeks. College basketball.
Well, thanks for being with us this week. For Eddie Sutton, I'm Tom Dirato. See you right here next week.